The PGA Tour just drew a line in the sand. And Phil Mickelson, the six-time major champion who helped tear the sport apart, was left on the wrong side of it. Brooks Koepka was welcomed back with open arms. Bryson DeChambeau, Jon Rahm, and Cameron Smith were given a golden ticket. But when Brian Rolapp unveiled the PGA Tour's new returning member program, one name was conspicuously absent, and his reaction has the golf world talking. January 12th, 2026, a day that will forever be remembered as the moment the PGA Tour finally drew a line in the sand. PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolapp unveiled the returning member program, a pathway for LIV golf defectors to come back to the tour. The policy was clear. Players who had left for LIV and wanted to return had to meet specific criteria. They had to have been away from the tour for at least 2 years. They had to have won a major championship or the Players' Championship between 2022 and 2025. The list of eligible players was short: Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, Jon Rahm, and Cameron Smith. 4 names for players who had won the biggest events in golf since LIV golf began. Koepka, who had shocked the golf world by leaving LIV just weeks earlier, was the first to take advantage. His return was immediate, though it came at a steep price: a $5 million charitable donation, 5 years of ineligibility for the Player Equity Program, and no FedEx Cup bonus money in 2026. But the most stunning part of the policy wasn't what it included. It was what it left out. Phil Mickelson's name was nowhere to be found. His last major victory, the 2021 PGA Championship at Kiowa Island, came just 1 year too early to qualify. The 6-time major champion, the man who had been one of the first and loudest voices to defect to LIV golf, had no official pathway back. The omission was deliberate, and everyone knew it. This is a one-time, defined window and is not a precedent for future situations, Rolapp wrote in a memo to players. Once the door closes, there is no promise that this path will be available again. The message was clear: Mickelson was not welcome. For a player who had spent 30 seasons on the PGA Tour, who had won 45 times and claimed 6 major championships, the snub was devastating. He had been one of the most beloved figures in the sport, a fan favorite who could charm any room with a smile and a witty remark. Now, he was being treated like an outcast. Golf Digest Middle East noted the irony. Mickelson would be eligible to return if the policy extended back just 12 months to accommodate his 2021 PGA Championship. The fact that it doesn't is, at the very least, notable. When the news reached Mickelson, he didn't issue a statement. He didn't hold a press conference. He did something far more telling. He laughed. On X, formerly Twitter, Mickelson posted a series of laughing and clapping emojis in response to the news. When Golf Digest highlighted the snub, he responded with the same reaction: face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy, clapping hands, clapping hands, clapping hands. It was classic Mickelson, defiant, unbothered, unwilling to give the PGA Tour the satisfaction of a reaction. But behind the laughter, the implications were clear. The man who had once been the face of the PGA Tour was now a pariah. The bridge was burned, and Brian Rolapp had made sure there was no rebuilding it. Some fans noted the irony of Mickelson's reaction. He's laughing now, but when LIV collapses, who's going to take him back? One user wrote. Another pointed out, he chose this. He knew the consequences. Now he has to live with them. The snub was not just about Mickelson's major victories. It was about his relationship with the PGA Tour, and that relationship had been toxic for years. Mickelson had been one of the earliest and most vocal defectors to LIV golf. He had cited obnoxious greed as a reason for leaving the tour. He had filed an antitrust lawsuit against the PGA Tour after being suspended for competing in LIV events. He had publicly criticized the tour's leadership, its policies, and its treatment of players. Phil was one of the key figures who got this whole thing started. One insider told Give Me Sport. He was the one who gave LIV legitimacy in the eyes of other players. The tour hasn't forgotten that. Former ESPN host Trey Wingo was even blunter. I can promise you one person that you'll never see in any way in an official capacity with the PGA Tour is Phil Mickelson. Wingo said, "That bridge has been burned, detonated, destroyed, nuked, lasered to death. There is no building that bridge back." The message was clear. No matter what happened to LIV golf, Mickelson would never be welcomed back. The news sent shockwaves through the locker room. Players who had stayed loyal to the PGA Tour were divided. Some felt Mickelson deserved a snub. Others felt the policy was too harsh. "I think if you want to come back, you have to change," one source told reporters. "Bryson has always been so very nice to me. He's a nice man. Whether it's all just a show or his persona, I don't know. But if you want to come back and play, you have to change your ways just a little." Others were more forgiving. "Human beings are human beings," Lucas Glover said earlier this year. "I kind of live by that. You treat everybody the same until they give you a reason not to. I have respect for people and golfers because they're people first and my peers second. I will never begrudge anybody for making a decision for the betterment of their career, their life, whatever that may be." But the prevailing sentiment was clear. Mickelson had made his bed. Now he had to lie in it. The irony of the situation was not lost on anyone. Mickelson had been one of the most vocal critics of the PGA Tour's greed. He had called out the Tour's leadership and questioned their priorities. Now, the Tour was using its power to exclude him. But even some of Mickelson's defenders acknowledged that he had brought this on himself. "He should have been Arnold Palmer," one former golf buddy told Alan Shipnuck. "Phil had the same charisma, the same star power. People loved him everywhere he went. My take is that he came to believe his own bullshit. He thought he was bulletproof because his whole life he had always skated on everything." The question now was whether Mickelson would ever find a way back. The returning member program had expired. The door was closed, and Brian Rolapp had made it clear that there would be no second chances. Brian Rolapp's move to exclude Phil Mickelson from the returning member program was not just a policy decision. It was a message. The PGA Tour was done with the man who had helped tear the sport apart. The bridge was burned, and there was no rebuilding it. The players are divided. The fans are furious, and the golf world is demanding answers. The question now is, should Phil Mickelson be allowed back on the PGA Tour? Or has he burned too many bridges?